Changeling of the Guard, written by vdrake77, narrated by Equinox3141. Chapter 29. Keep it simple, stupid. Freshly purged from the evils of potential alcoholism, we are propped up and given a few minutes to cleanse ourselves. From there, we received half a cup of coffee, all the orange juice we could safely handle, and a small piece of bark from one of the willow trees in the royal garden, which is also part of this tradition of the high and low crawl. The bark was bitter, unpleasant, and surprisingly effective at making us willing to continue living. Or perhaps it was some combination of all the aforementioned things. Regardless, there was a small breakfast to be had with our kith and kin, and it would not do to keep them waiting much longer. Besides, I could recall eating very little during our exploration of the various Canterlot pubs, and I, for one, was ravenous. Shining Armor's parents were there, obviously, and Topaz was my only attendee. Cadence made herself seen from the ramparts, but her strange arrangement with Shining kept her from making a truly public appearance. Nonetheless, the love she sent the way of the blue-maned unicorn was a truly welcome perk, even if I was amazed that none other had been smothered in the sheer breath of it. Shining's parents apparently knew much of me, and seemed approving in general. Shining made a strange statement about me being willing to jump off a bridge if ordered, and I corrected him that if there was a just cause to jump off a bridge, any pony would. He argued that if I could find one, he'd join me. Shining is ever a good friend and worthy soldier. Shining's mother took a picture of us as battle buddies. I think it's an old term. Topaz, to my surprise, was not entirely unknown to the other ponies. Her expertise with insects had made her a somewhat common alternative to traditional pest ponies amongst the palace gardeners. Very recently, she'd arranged for a combination of lacewing and dragonflies to be delivered to the garden and often provided support for one of Honeydew's best-behaved beehives, also located in the garden and routinely visited. Though she did not know, she introduced herself with aplomb that I found admirable. Still, I felt it appropriate to introduce her to my companions personally, and she took to Wispy rather well. "So, how did you know Idle?" "Oh, well, technically I suppose I'm his landlady. Not sure how much he's told you," she offered cautiously, getting a measure for the other Pegasus mare. "Found wandering the desert on the Saddle Arabian border? Yeah, but how did you meet him?" "Oh, well, I met him just this side of the Badlands and, well, you know how it goes. He saved my life, he didn't have anywhere to go." She rolled her wings in a self-conscious shrug. "Couldn't just leave him where he was." "No memories of his past? Yeah, I get you." The stormy mare gave me an appraising look, while Topaz cleared her throat and rubbed the side of her chin with a hoof. I felt a moment of inexplicable dread, and was relieved when Bold ambled up. "Ladies, Idle, how's it going? Who's your friend?" "Ah, Bold Big Flink, this is Topaz Shower. She studies entomology." "Oh, so you're in charge of designing those. Seem like they're either heavy and a pain to carry, or they're thin and don't keep out the rain or bugs at all." What? You study tense, right?" "Entomology," she enunciated carefully. "The study of insects." She frowned, looked him up and down, and tilted her head, biting her lip in thought. "Haven't we met before? You look familiar." "I don't think so. Not too well known in Canterlot." No, I'm sure of it. Bouncer?" She adjusted her glasses, peering up at him. Bold's good-natured snort clearly proved that to be a poor guess, but his voice seemed oddly tense. No, I don't think we've met." "One of the night spots, maybe? I mean, there's the nightmares." No, I don't think so." "Maybe somewhere with more dancing?" She stared. Bold's eyes grew wide. "You were a Her own eyes darted to myself and Wispy. "Top Hat's waiter, that fancy bar, the one that shut down a year or two back." The relief in Bold's eyes made me think that Topaz might be lying. How very unlike her. Here, Wispy's interest piqued. "You worked in a bar?" "It was a club, not a bar," he stated stoutly. That wasn't precisely a lie, I thought, but Topaz nodded quickly as if to affirm the inaccuracy. "Wasn't a bartender, just part of the waitstaff." Right, like I said, fancy. They wore little bow ties." Here, Bold glared at her. "That sounds kind of adorable," Wispy admitted. "Place sounds fun." She looked up at Bold, a hint of a grin appearing on her face. I tried to imagine Bold in a tie, and found myself quite incapable. That was probably for the best, I decided. I did not need that sort of trauma. "Oh yeah, I hit it up every so often. Too bad it closed." She cleared her throat, and my concern at her dishonesty morphed into one over whatever was wrong with her respiratory system. Perhaps she could explain the purpose of cough drops. A pair of stallions ambled out of the crowd, and I was stunned at their similarities to Bold. Topaz clearly was as well, because her mouth fell open. "Bold Big Flink," the one called, obviously delighted. The most noticeable difference, I decided, was that this one had a blonde mane of length and luster that I doubted any changeling could replicate properly. "You are looking well, my friend," he announced, clapping a hoof to his shoulder before hauling Bold into a firm embrace. Bold looked almost as startled as Topaz, truthfully. "Answer Rock, hard place? The TARDIS are the two of you doing here?" I wasn't sure which of the two went by which name. Truthfully, I doubt anyone present could. They seemed equally suited to either. "We heard you were joining the Guard and wanted to show our support. The others, they could not make it, but we all chipped in, got you a little something to remind you of your roots, and you can show them how a uniform really looks." The second one, darker-haired and a bit stouter, dug into a saddlebag and produced a long, thin box. "Boys, that better not be a watch, you can't—" When the box opened, it was... well, it looked to be a small gold ribbon on white fabric. I had to admit, it would match our armor magnificently, but hardly uniform. "Aw, guys, but these were only for the ones who—"
"And this one is for you. You make us proud,"
the other Salian grunted.
"Is very impressive."
He looked at the rest of us, then smiled.
"But you are not the only one from the old days. Miss Showers, it is good to see you."
This one didn't enunciate well. I disliked his inattention to his R's. Topaz let out a little squeak. Her respiratory issues would need immediate attention, I decided. I turned to face her. "Topaz, are you doing well?" Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Wispy's gleaming grin as the golden mare turned to meet me head-on, right before Wispy's flank caught hers, and Topaz's snout was pushed into mine. The flow of emotions began immediately, and more intensely than any I had ever felt outside of Cadence. It was too much. One moment inscrutable, the next there was confusion and fear, and there was... gone. In an instant, Topaz taking a shocked step back, her cheeks now red as apples. "Topaz, I tried to form words. Order, had I done it again? I'll be right back," she managed, fleeing to the buffet. I tried to process what I'd managed. The quantity of emotion transferred had not been great. It had, however, been faster than I had expected anything to be, and it had been direct. The anger I currently felt, I decided, was wholly my own.
"Wispy."
The mare shook her head. "I set you up and that's all you give us? That's a 5, Hooves." "5 what?" My anger was deflating into confusion, which I wasn't so certain belonged to me. Bold took a protective step closer. "Come on, Wisp, that's at least a 7. Looks like she was struck by lightning." 6, maybe. 7 absolute tops. She's a Pegasus. Anything higher than a 7 would cause localized weather effects." "What in order are you two talking about?" Wispy shrugged. "Not a great kiss, Heidi. I kind of expected better from you." "But better? Why in the Queen's name would she expect that?" "Oh yeah, she's got a cloud with your name in it. I can tell. Honestly, how can't you? You're usually better at reading ponies." "What does that even mean?" I burst, throwing my hooves in the air. Topaz owned no clouds. "Colts, I never seen you this flustered. You really like her, don't you?" I glared at both of them. "No, Topaz deserves better than that." I stormed off, intent on joining her, regardless of understanding what was going on. Confusion wafted from both of them, and I did not care. I was still trying to process the rest of the stolen emotions as I went to join Topaz at the food. She was currently stacking strawberries on a plate, and I noted that odd little detail for further consideration. Lamely, I began. "I am so sorry," Topaz finished. "Look, I don't know what's happening. I wasn't thinking. I guess I tripped. Sorry, it's been a while." "Been a while for what? No, that does not matter. Are you well? I did not mean to take from you." I looked around, hoping nobody was paying us too much attention. Wispy and Bold were, but they were far enough away that I doubted it mattered. "What? No, I'm fine. You looked as though you were going to be sick." "I had been distracted. All I knew that I was draining you, and I tried to recall the order of events precisely. Had the flow cut off and then she stepped away, or had she stepped away and thus the flow was cut off? My attention had only been on the sensation. I could not recall. "Well, I think I'm fine." She sounded uncertain. "How do I know if I'm not?" "I don't think you would care," I admitted, slowly considering. How does one recognize that one no longer has emotion? You likely would not have left. "Oh, well, I thought... Well, it doesn't matter what I thought." She raised a hoof to her muzzle, and I found myself watching her mouth. Odd. Inappropriate, I decided. "I mean, it's just... Yeah, been a while." She gave a little laugh. I think I need to start dating again." Dating, the pony means of finding a mate. I found I did not like it. It was, however, the benefit to Equestria, of benefit to Topaz. "Perhaps that would be wise," I agreed, a strange clench to my jaw. She seemed to look at me for a long time. "Yeah." She clears her throat and drains one of the cups. Anyway, how does it feel, being a guard finally? Sobering, I stated as she pulled a face. Truthfully, it is somewhat amazing that I am to be entrusted with the defense of the realm. Part of it, she quickly corrected. You're only responsible for your part in it. Take too much responsibility and you'll burn out. I mean, you're not one of the ponies whose calling is to be a soldier. That was true enough. Less than 1 in 1,000 apparently had marks with direct combat applications, but that was the case unless the ponies were at war, according to military history lectures. I will take as much responsibility as I am ordered to. And I'll order you to take it easy from time to time. So, did your other friend make it? I did not realize I was allowed to offer multiple invitations, or that I could invite Honeydew. She's traveling to Ponyville to try selling the apples a hive or two anyways, but you know the apples, everything has to happen naturally. But that's not who I meant. Shining is already here. No, Idol, your other friend. I considered blankly. Oh, hey you. As I said, I did not think to offer the invitations to others. Maybe once they let you out, we can meet him, celebrate a bit on our own terms. Topaz's ploy was obvious, but I could not help but be amused by it, and my relief at her well-being was such that I could deny her nothing. I believe we could make the time. I cannot say why her trotting in place pleased me so. Heiyu was gone. At first I was confused. Surely the front desk was misinformed, but upon inspection of their room, I found it to be so. In the meantime, Topaz had accepted what Heiyu had left behind from the rather confused hotel staff, an envelope and all of the crystals the Queen had given to me. Within the envelope was a section of the previous day's Help Wanted ads, and, unfortunately, most of them crossed off. Heiyu had been busy. Of those left, I noticed that all of them were under the subheading, Out of Town. One was marked in red. Help Wanted. Need hooves. Bumper crop assist. Required winter. All welcome. First 12 plus willing work next harvest. Will have bed and board provided. Contact CJ at Dodge Junction. I sat, stunned at the implication. Heiyu was gone, and, unless Topaz was horrifically mistaken, by train. There was no other explanation, no farewells, no wishing of luck. These were pony traditions, true. But the logic still felt hollow. I had failed my fellow changeling, and they had left the city with no more than that, and I had even managed to disappoint Topaz, even if she gave no outward sign. I truly hoped Heiyu would find their way in Equestria. Perhaps I had been too focused on my own. I wondered if they would even retain the name or form I knew them by. Impossible to know, impossible to find out, short of traveling to this Dodge Junction. And now I had other responsibilities. I could not simply leave them. Dereliction of duties was one of the most dishonorable things a guard could do, and I couldn't, even if I truly wanted to. I was lost in the quagmire of my thoughts until we returned home. It had been a thoroughly intense day, I decided. Intense, confusing, and tiring. I would do better, I decided. I would not fail another of my kind again. I climbed in my cocoon restlessly. That night, I rubbed my nose where Topaz's own had made contact. It settled me somewhat, but troubled me in new ways. Still, the memory was an oddly pleasant one, and through its soothing, I fell into a slumber to await the dawn of a changed day.